Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Sprites of Life. I'm Lucas,
I'm Chris.
And I'm Don.
and today we have someone else joining us. I would like to introduce all of you to my friend and paleontologist buddy, Will. Will, how you doing?
Doing well. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks for being here, man. I mean, I love you're one of my best friends. I thought I'd bring you along and meet some of my other best friends. Community and all that.
And first interview for the podcast.
That is an honor. I wasn't aware, and now I'm feeling like I gotta make a strong first impression for everyone else to have to follow.
I put a lot of pressure on it. I'm sorry.
All right. So today we kind of brought you here. Now I know paleontology. That's we'll talk about that in a bit. That's what you are and what you do. But I didn't want to bring you in here just for that. I had something special for you. I need your help with.
Happily.
So y'all, guys, what are your thoughts on the Paradox Pokemon?
Past supremacy.
I do think most of the past Paradox ones are for sure better, mainly because Torkoal is a real Pokemon and Pincurchin is not. Iron Bundle is busted though.
It's basically, is it a dinosaur or is it a robot?
Yep.
That feels
Everything
like
is Chrome in the future.
SpongeBob taught us that.
Oh god, no! I think it's even funnier when you think about like how, like a lot of the Iron Bundle, like all the Iron, they couldn't even come up with a better name for them. It's just Iron everything.
Well, and it brings up the question to me of like, are you suggesting that like we make robots of them in the future, or does like all life get digitized Skynet style or something? Like, is this like a gray goo scenario happen, and these are just the bio or like mechanical organ? Like, what happened in the future?
I think the better question is, why is the peak metal of the future iron?
right.
Like, I feel like we've gotten a few metals past iron at this point.
What do the future people know that we don't?
It sounds cool.
They've mastered marketing.
Titanium Valiant doesn't sound as sick.
I mean, like, what could have possibly turned Delibird into evil robot Santa from Futurama?
What he wanted to be all along.
I
just imagine disrespected.
Every time I see that Iron Bundle, I'm just like that first scene when you see Robot Santa. Oh boy, it's Santa! Ho, ho, ho. If those of you who are listening have not watched Futurama, they have one of the best Christmas specials. Robot Santa hates everyone. Long story, don't want to spoil it. But we're getting off track. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Now, you are our guest, but as you know, we are both you and me, Will, we are born in the South. I think we're all born in the South, actually. Right? I think so.
Washington, D.C.
Yeah, close enough.
All right.
All right. So, do you have, like, usually when a guest comes over, they bring us nice things, and I asked you in advance if you could bring some science news to share with us.
Yes, I have some news. I have news. This is news from last month, I believe, February, that is about what seems to be currently the biggest penguin we've ever discovered.
Ooh, I heard about this.
Does it dance or does it surf?
I say it can do whatever it wants so that it doesn't hurt me. This is research published in the Journal of Paleontology by Daniel Kisepka et al. And it is about findings of 9 new specimens. So 9 new fossil penguins from the Paleocene. So about 59 to 55 million years ago of New Zealand on South Island.
And when you say big penguin, how big is
Yes.
an emperor penguin is 4 feet tall.
Exactly. So the penguins they found range. They have a couple of new species here, and then a couple of known fossil species. One of the new species, I'm going to try to pronounce this.
That's what editing's for.
Petrodiptis stonehousei. I might have butchered that first name. This was 5 of the specimens they found, and it was only slightly larger than today's emperor penguin. So if you picture an emperor penguin, like you said, about 4 feet tall and about 50 to 100 pounds they range, so 25 to 45 kilograms. It was a little bit bigger than that. The other specimens they had was a couple of fossils from a known also giant penguin. So another, because the emperor penguin today is considered a giant penguin.
I mean, have you actually you here seen an emperor penguin up close? I know I have.
I wouldn't say up close, but I have seen them in person. And they're
I
big.
haven't been that close one, but I've seen them.
I think my favorite article as I was finding this, Will, is the biggest penguin ever existed was a, quote, monster bird.
Yes. Yep. That's the other, because they had a couple of fossils from ones they haven't identified yet, but the last specimen is a new species for Kumimanu for Daisai or for Daikai. This penguin
Pretty good.
is absolutely massive, probably the largest yet known. They got the size estimate by comparing wing bones from the fossils they had and modern birds and penguins, and got size estimates. So once again, emperor penguin, 50 to 100 pounds. Petrodiptes was like 110 pounds, so just a little bit bigger than the emperor.
Mm-hmm.
Kumimanu was a range of 150 to 160 kilograms, so 330 to 352 pounds. The previous record holder for largest penguin was another fossil species, which was 250. So it bumped it up by almost another 100 pounds.
That's nuts. I don't want to meet that thing. It's added to the list of things I'm glad I don't have to see. I don't want to
this is a penguin that generously outsizes your average adult person.
I mean, it's bigger than NFL offensive linemen.
Yeah. This is a truly giant penguin. They also noted that these penguins are at the early evolutionary period of penguins. This is shortly after the end of the Mesozoic, the extinction of the dinosaurs, which was 66 million years ago. So we're only 10 million years after that. So this is fairly early on in penguin evolution, which means they got to what seems to be likely the upper size limits of this group very early on in their history, which is interesting. That's not what we typically see, especially in like mammal groups. They tend to take a while to get to those large size. Penguins evidently got big really early on, and they were primitive, quote unquote. They had a lot of features from their flighted ancestors, so they weren't quite as penguin-y and quite as ideal for swimming. Their flippers are a little less flipper-like than today's penguins.
Did they have the weird teeth-like beak?
I don't think we have beak remains from this one, so we don't know.
Okay.
And we do have beak remains from other large penguins, because large penguins is not an unusual thing. There's multiple groups of large penguins. Like, this evolved multiple times in penguins, that they just got human-sized for some reason. And a few of them I know had ridiculously long, thin bills. Like the narwhals of the penguin world. It was very, very extreme compared to today's penguins. But this one, I don't think we have any skull material from.
Because if there's one thing a giant penguin needs, it's a giant spike beak.
Yes, absolutely. Because why wouldn't you?
Not even Empoleon, the penguin Pokemon, is bigger than this thing is bigger than the Pokemon.
Yeah.
Some of the Pokemon are honestly way smaller than you'd think they'd be, though. Especially some of the earlier gens. I think Nidoking is like 4'11".
Because they're sized for 10-year-olds.
Yeah, but like, come on. Make it bigger.
I feel the some way.
Napoleon's 5'7". That's a pretty good height.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, who's like 4? Gengar? One of them is really short. Charizard's short.
Charizard, 5 foot nothing. Charizard is 5 foot nothing.
I was sad when I realized that. As much as I love Charizard, I could like put my elbow on its head.
I'm just imagining Ash just Ash's Charizard is like some kind of horrifying giant in comparison. Like,
I sort of in my my own like little headcanon, I guess. I consider it like that's like the minimum size maybe.
Yep, that makes sense. Or
Like that's like maybe when they first evolve, and then they grow more. Because like that's wildly inconsistent with like every other piece of media we see. Even the newer games have them at like varying sizes. Some are like teeny and some are huge.
Or we found out that Pokedex entry was just made by someone who lived on an island with particularly small Charizards.
Yeah.
that would do it. Well, thank you for the penguin-related nightmares. I'm sure the Coca-Cola company will not be using that as their mascot in the future.
Just stealing the sodas, the Coca-Colas from the polar bear.
Is it both now? I thought it
They
was
used
polar
to have
bears.
at one advertisement they had like penguins and polar bears interacting, and then all the biologists got upset.
Yep.
It's not even close. So they just
Can I ask Will about a story I saw?
Mhm.
Do you know about this marsupial sabertooth?
Yes. Thylacosmilus.
What's that deal? I saw it popping up in the news. Is it a new thing or is it like why was it popping up recently?
So Thylacosmilus is its close cousin of marsupials. It's not. Its group is called the Sparacidontids, and so it's not in true marsupials, but it's a South American predator, fossil predator, and it's well known. We've been studying this animal for years and years now, and it is just very unusual. It has saber teeth like saber-toothed cats, like Smilodon, but they're shaped different. They also seem to be open-rooted, so the roots go up into the skull and seem like they were ever growing like the tusks of an elephant. And we're not sure how they were using those tusks just because they're so weird. And because of those tusks, they have because of those teeth, they have a very unusually shaped skull. This new study was looking at the placement of their eyes because famously, predatory animals have forward-facing eyes that give them binocular vision, makes it good for them targeting their prey. And herbivorous animals, plant eaters, have eyes to the side, which gives them a wider view to look out for danger, but not good, targeting view, not good 3D view. Thylacosmilus's eyes, because of its weird-shaped head, are on the side of its head like a horse or cow, but they've moved up and outward to still look forward to give it binocular vision because it has to look around the roots of those giant canines.
And so was this like the first time that like they had like a better view of how its eyes work?
This is just the first time they had done detailed study to figure out what its field of view would be. They CT scanned a number of well-preserved skulls, and so it's just no one had done the study to figure out exactly where their eyes are pointed, and so we hadn't realized how truly bizarre they were until now.
So weird marsupial got weird.
Yes, exactly. Still seems predatory, but we still don't know what it's doing with those weird teeth.
So we did have some gaming news pop up. Did anyone here watch the Breath of the Wild 2 like trailer thing that dropped today?
We got 10 minutes of gameplay.
Yeah. It was real nice.
What? No, I didn't know about that.
I haven't had a chance to
You
see
didn't
it
see
yet.
it?
All right, so we got.
Don, you're gonna love it.
If you haven't, I mean, by the time this comes out, more people have a chance to see it. They basically showed off a lot of gameplay, and they showed off some of the new tools that Link's gonna have to use to survive. And some of these tools, if you've ever just gone down the YouTube rabbit hole of people doing stupid stuff in Breath of the Wild, they've given these people some pretty terrifying tools.
Free reign, some
Like
might say.
one of them is an item that is basically like you get the Sheikah Slate style thing, whatever, but it allows you to reverse time for an object. So like in those sky islands, a rock will fall down from the islands. You go up to the rock, you basically hit a button and it rewinds it back up to where it fell from.
Oh, cool.
That's a cool concept.
So if a boulder is coming down a hill, you can stop the boulder and head it going right back up.
I think you're burying the lead
Okay.
here, Lucas.
Yeah, I'm bearing the fusion ability is terrifying. The idea is that you can take almost any two objects and stick them together to create weapons.
What?
In the demo, they show
Sounds
Link
awesome.
fighting a he fights a construct with a stick, and it takes a while. And then they show Link take the stick, and he walks over to a boulder, clicks fuse, and then the boulder's on the end of the stick, and then he just goes and like one shots the construct.
Just unga and bunga in that order, just wham.
Oh, that's lovely.
It gets even better. Like, it's funnier because, like, what if you want to attack from range? And then, like, he takes a stick and attaches it to a pitchfork, and it becomes a really long pitchfork to poke things with.
Or he puts they put like a Keese eye on the end of an arrow and make it like a homing arrow. There's some really cool. But then they show him like building fan boats.
Yeah, you can just there's
Like-
another tool that lets you just stick stuff together with glue, and so you can just make your own boats or make your own cars, whatever you really want.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's nuts. It is absolutely insane what they're gonna let you do. I mean, they have one that lets you just go through any roof as well. That one just seems like, so if you're in a cave and there's a cliff above it, it just lets you shoot through the cave into the void between the dimensions and just pop up through the roof. It's wild.
That's just to appease everyone who complained about having to climb too much in Breath of the Wild.
Yep, yep.
Honestly, it's the fusion thing that's really drawn people's eyes, because one of the things he showed was like, hey, this shield, and it looks dumb. Like, it purposely looks dumb because it doesn't like, it's not like a JRPG where like it magically fuses and intertwines it. When they show you a shield fused with a mushroom, it's a shield with a mushroom that looks like it was super glued to the front of it.
I like it.
But
But then they hit it and it shoots out. It's basically a smoke bomb shield.
Oh.
But people are getting it's how they're addressing the complaints of, man, I only have weak weapons and I keep breaking them. They're like, fine, you little whiners, here, make your own weapons.
You think it's so easy?
You think it's so easy? Fine.
Yeah.
Here's a stick and a rock, make a hammer. Ha ha. Later. I'm out of here. I'm not dealing with you people.
It's like the kids' version of Dead Rising.
Oh.
That's actually what I thought about when you said the making the weapons thing. That game was great.
I'm just imagining someone just sticks rocks on rocks, and they could eventually just build a mech out of like rocks, sticks, and glue.
Don's gonna make a Zoid.
I can't wait.
Oh my god. No, it's going to be a great game. I was able to talk to a friend or two who might be able to help us out. So, Will, you're going to have to do a strong showing because we might have to bring another guy in to talk about him.
Nice.
But let's kind of get on to like what you're here for. Now, we've kind of like jumped a little ahead in our little scripty doohickey, but I kind of want to like just get our listeners to get to know you. Why are you you? I'm sure many therapists have asked, but why paleontology? Why get into this? Because I've known you for years. You're a smart dude. Why bones and dead stuff?
I've always been fascinated by animal, like ever since I was a kid, and I became, as many paleontologists did, became fascinated with dinosaurs, and I liked the concept that there were these amazing creatures that used to live here, and the kind of detective work that had to go into figuring out how they lived and what they were doing. So the whole concept just fascinates me. I said I wanted to be a paleontologist when I was about 5 years old, when I read the word in a book and said, all right, there it is. That's what I'm going to do. And then I had to explain to adults from there on out that would ask me what I wanted to do when I grew up, what a paleontologist was. And so it's always been one of my main interests. Nowadays, I am not researching or digging, I am educating about paleontology, because I found out that as much as I love fossils, I am not so much big on academia and research. That's extremely rewarding once you finish a paper. Getting there is a lot of work.
I can only imagine. No, again, I took the education route on the like, just nope, I don't want to be in a classroom. So I get where you're coming from. But hey, now you got like one of the top paleo podcasts in the world. So like, there you go.
Yes, I am one half of the hosts of the Common Descent podcast, where we talk about various Earth history and paleontology related topics requested by our listeners, and release episodes every fortnight on things ranging from fossil groups like dinosaurs and extinct mammals to the moon and sleep and how those things have shaped evolution on the planet.
With paleontology, how does paleontology help us in the now? I mean, it's cool to know things, but people usually want a reason to know things. Like, it's like
Yes.
science for science sake doesn't pay the bills.
Yes, precisely. And that definitely is something that has to be addressed with paleontology, because it is very close to just science for science sake. But it is a way to give us perspective of about life on the planet. As David, my co-host, David Moscato, likes to say, it is really the only way to give us a view into what life has been doing on the planet before we started recording our history and our observations. Otherwise, fossils are really the only way you can get a glimpse into what life used to be like, which is important for predicting what life might do in different scenarios and into the future. Because we can observe what's happening in environments today, but when a question comes up of like, okay, but what if, the ice caps suddenly aren't there or increase? What if things get suddenly way colder? What will happen? We can't observe that because that's not an experiment we can actually run, but it's already been run in the history of Earth. We can look back at times when we didn't have ice caps, when we had much larger ice caps, and see what happened to life. Which organisms did well, which ones didn't, what changes did we see, what patterns did we see? And now we can say, okay, well, in a world where things are changing like today, what changes might we expect? And it can help us prepare. And so that's really one of the biggest things it does for us, is it gives us hindsight, the ability to use hindsight on the planet and the life on the planet to hopefully make predictions for what's happening or what might happen.
Well, I was gonna ask a follow up that might tie into with. First of all, I love the explanation that you gave, Will. I'm curious for your perspective. How would everything you just said? What would happen if you had the opposite? If you had the future look, so you had the past look and the future look. How would that change the scientific approach to how we interpret that data?
Yeah, if we like got a record of like a similar record but going forward in time.
Yeah, so basically like the paradox mons. So
Mhm.
you have Great Tusk and Iron Tusk, and it's like, how did we get there?
Yes.
Kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be very similar processes of we'd have to be looking at comparisons between the future fossil and what we have today, and then also what we have in the past to see, all right, what similarities. This seems like it's probably this type of organism based on the traits it has, because who knows which direction things might go. We might find that bats become dominant flying organisms and are now the size of albatrosses, and we'd have to look through the features and go, okay, this seems batty, even though it's very, very weird. So we'd probably have to be doing the same detective work we do with fossils. I think then what we would try to derive from that is a prediction, just like we use in the past, of, okay, this animal has adaptations for a desert. That means this area that it is in now used to be a desert. So what changes in the planet's climate would have caused those shifts, or what would that interpret for this landmass? We'd be doing the same thing, but in the future. So it would give us inclinations potentially of like, all right, well, it seems like the current global climate changes are going to continue based on this, or, oh, evidently they reverse at some point because this thing was found in Nevada, but things are it seemed like it's adapted for much colder weather. So evidently things reverse at some point, or what have you. So we would be doing that. I think then you'd have to be dealing with as the names of the Pokemon suggest, the paradox of, does our knowledge of that affect those fossils? And are we shifting? Would we find a new fossil now because we've now adjusted our knowledge of that time period and our behaviors that would potentially navigate things there?
And then you just get the scientist from Galar who's just making their own
Oh.
fossils.
Yep.
So just in general, obviously you love fossils, paleontology. What are your thoughts of fossil Pokemon? And are you sad that we didn't get true to form fossil Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet.
Yes, I actually love the vast majority of fossil Pokemon. Really, the Galar ones are the only ones that
One
are.
of my favorite groups too, honestly.
Yes, they're fantastic. The Galar ones are the only ones that are sour notes for me. Not only because you mishmashed them in silly ways, but a lot of the things you mishmashed would have been really cool fossil Pokemons. Like, we almost got a Dunkleosteus armored fish Pokemon, and we almost got like a Stegosaur. Like, oh man,
Plesiosaur.
that would have been cool. Yeah. So like, those are disappointing. Everything else, Pokemon does a surprisingly good job of adapting the features of those fossil organisms into the the cartoonified aspects of a Pokemon, and they do a surprisingly good job of picking diverse groups, in many ways. They, a lot of them are dinosaurs, which is to be expected, but there's a lot of fairly obscure, at least in the public eye, like marine organisms and like Anomalocaris.
Gen 3 really impressed me,
Yeah.
honestly.
Like, you get a whole bunch of things that
And the
yes,
crinoids.
the crinoids. That's such an iconic fossil if you're researching the fossil record, but most people don't talk about it because it's not a dinosaur. And so the fact that they went with that was very cool. So I generally really like the fossil Pokemon, and I have been waiting for us to get a new batch since Galar to redeem that hodgepodge.
Don, what are your thoughts on them? From you do more of the competitive stuff. What are your thoughts on the fossils?
Well, right now none of them are legal. At the time, so that's not really relevant, and like they're just not in Scarlet and Violet yet. Dracovish was really good very early on because like Vicious Train Strong John was good, but it was kind of one dimensional. Honestly, I thought what was it? Draco Zolt, right? Was the electric one?
Yeah.
I thought that one was by far more frustrating when used well. Dynamax with Hustle is just dumb. The damage is crazy. Its coverage is crazy. It's bulkier than you think it is. The other two I forget exist.
Arctovish and Arctozolt. Dracozolt and Arctozolt. Or Dracovish
Yeah,
and
they
Arctozolt.
were.
Yeah.
No.
They were
Something
weird.
in
I
there.
still feel that woman deserved to be put in jail.
Yes.
We need the sister researcher Kara Full to come in a future generation and fix them.
I really hope we get the correct versions.
Yes, I was hoping that would be like the follow-up plot of that game of like whichever one you make, you get to fix it and pick one of the halves to be like an extra fossil Pokemon or something.
The fact
Like,
that they
would have been
literally
really cool.
they named her Kara Liss. Come on.
Yep. Yeah.
I do have to say, Credilli is one of my favorite fossil Pokemon.
Yeah.
I have several like very good like runs in competitive too. It's got a very like useful niche.
Storm Drain's a heck of an ability.
It's just
Yeah.
it's just so cool.
So on the note of the Pokemon, I kind of wanted to view some of the Paradox Pokemon, compare them to their modern counterparts. Now, I will let you all know who are listening, I did not put in Fluttermane, and I did not put in what's the Magneton one's name?
Anti-shocks.
Anti-Shock. Yeah, I didn't put those in because one's a weird prehistoric magnet and the other one's a dead caveman. But
We don't know how magnets work.
Let alone how they evolve.
So I kind of whittled it down to the ones that are based mostly on. Oh, and I didn't use Screamtail because I'm prejudiced against Jigglypuff, but that's fine. They can't stop me. Oh, I'm sorry.
Rude.
All it grew was a mohawk and teeth and red eyes. It's like, oh yeah, here are my stats up 1,000%.
Yeah. You can't stop
So
it.
I think it's best just to start with the one that's the most recognizable, and that is with Great Tusks, who just became really, really angry as a mammoth.
Great Tusk also just won the Charlotte Regional.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, I heard rumor that was one of the guys on the team. Wasn't there that guy with like a Chansey with Minimize, or that a Muck with Minimize?
That was not on that was not in the finals, but yeah, that was a very interesting team with that, and also like a Vivillon and a Mimikyu with Copycat. It was a very cool team, honestly.
Nice.
Oh, and an Orthworm was there.
Oh, an Orthworm? Thanks.
Nice.
Yep.
I like the big worm. I'm not smart enough to use it. So with Great Tusks, I mean, it's a
Great
mammoth.
responsibility.
Mm.
That was your best joke to date, Don.
I
have to
appreciate
say.
it.
All right.
I'll take it.
Mammoth, great tusk. Yes.
I honestly, I think most of the Paradox Pokemon look awesome, like just from a coolness factor. And Great Tusk looks fantastic. The interesting things to me about it, and this is a trend across most of them, is you mentioned it being angry. That a lot of them they went with this vibe that the prehistoric counterpart is more feral and ferocious, and that's a very common old mentality about fossil groups that terrible lizards, that these things of the past were barbaric and it was just them tearing each other's throats out all the time, and that shows in a lot of these. Like the fact that Grey Tusk is also just covered in spikes and just looks like it's not meant to ever be hugged.
If I were to train this Pokemon, like I would make it my friend and I would hang laundry off its tusks just to show my dominance.
I do like the tusks, those curly tusks. That is a woolly mammoth reference. There were fossil elephants that had super curled tusks like that, and that's very fitting. Those were also though pretty particular to just woolly mammoth. Like we put those tusks on everything, but most fossil elephants just had normal tusks. So they just looked like elephants. And
Is there an advantage to the curled tusks?
we think it might be for them to sweep snow. Potentially. We see a similar thing on the front of elk horns that let them brush snow off of grass, and the woolly mammoth was hairy. It was woolly because it lived in very, very cold climates, famously during the Ice Age and Ice Ages. And so it was adapted to that. Most fossil elephants weren't hairy. Most of them didn't have those curled tusks. So we think that it was probably an adaptation to that frigid, often snowy environment.
I mean, I like how it has the fluff on its feet, as if like to avoid getting its legs too cold from the snow. It's like a leg warmer.
Yes.
It's an elephant built with
Yep.
warmers.
And so, it is intriguing. It's, not furry anywhere else. So it's unclear where this animal would be living. But curled tusks are not unheard of in other groups. So it could be using those for something other than sweeping snow.
Yeah,
They could just be battering them like a ram horns or something.
I will say my least favorite thing about all the Paradox Pokemons is that because they are newly discovered, all of their entries are garbage. Now, on one hand, it makes sense that the Pokedex would be like, data not found, make something up. Oh my god. Like, if you read some of these, it's like, the sighting of this Pokemon has occurred in recent years. The name Great Tusk was taken from a creature listed from a certain book. And the other ones, the ones in Scarlet, are like, this creature resembles a mysterious Pokemon that, according to...
Violet.
What was it? Yeah, Violet. I'm sorry, I'm dumb. According to the one in Violet, this creature resembles a mysterious Pokemon that occurred in according to a paranormal magazine, has lived since ancient times. So, like, Scarlet talked about, like, oh, this book was cited, well, we got this name from somewhere, and Violet's like, yeah, this trashy magazine called it Great Tusk, so that's what we're gonna call it.
Well, and that's the super weird part to me, is that like it treats it like a cryptid, but like we would have fossils exist in the Pokemon world. We just had a whole conversation about fossil Pokemon. Like, we dig up fossils, even if these aren't as old as dinosaurs. We still have we find fossils of woolly mammoths, and those were around with people. Like, we would have fossils of these Pokemon. They wouldn't be some like, my goodness. We would be like, oh, you're obviously a cousin of Donphan, because look at you. It's weird that they treat them like this, like, mysterious, unknowable things, when it's like, no, but we all understand the history of our planet. We would not be surprised by a ancestral, or more likely a cousin group. This probably isn't the ancestor of Donphan, but a cousin group that was close to Donphan.
Well, I have to say, you just went on about how we don't have any fossil Pokemon. Maybe it's because they didn't have any paleontologists to dig them up and look at it.
Yes, and that could be that this area isn't well studied, or maybe there's something about this region that doesn't preserve fossil well, which we do find today. That there's certain environments like rainforests don't do fossils well, and there are some certain parts of the planet that we don't get fossils from well. Most famously is like Antarctica because it's covered by ice, but also just other regions where, deserts, sometimes do, sometimes don't, depending on what kind of situation you have. But rainforests, once again, if a rainforest has persisted in an area, that turns up the dirt, so you don't get fossils. So maybe this area doesn't have good fossils.
Oh.
Based on the rocks they show in the game, it should, but maybe it doesn't.
So on the note of fossils, question for you: how do insects fossil? Because our next one is Slitherwing, and
Yes.
yeah, weird bug. I like it.
Mhm.
Weird bug.
Oh, I like it that the wings have become like Godzilla spines. Insects definitely fossilize differently because they don't have bones, and bones are typically what we're getting fossils of because they're the toughest part of the body. Insects have exoskeletons, which are tough, but not nearly as tough as bones. So typically, insect fossils are most famous from amber. Think Jurassic Park, tree resin that traps an insect, the goo from trees, traps an insect and then fossilizes, becomes a mineral, or mineralizes in the ground and preserves the insect inside. But we do get rare insect fossils in like really fine sediment where really nice fossils get preserved. We can get them fossilized in situations like that. And those will also be situations where we sometimes find like soft tissue. So rarely we will get the whole insect otherwise outside of amber.
So it is a fighting bug type now.
It's not the best typing. Being 4 times weak to flying is bad. Being weak to fire is bad. Being weak to psychic is not great. But on the positive sides, it's got a really nice move pool, close combat, first impression, flare blitz. Most of the ones I see are Terra Fire. I do think of the Paradoxes, it's one of the weaker ones. If you look at its finishes, it kind of doesn't have any.
I mean, kind of cute.
But I really like him. I think he's a cool dude.
One of the things that stands out to me about you saying him being one of the weaker ones is it's weird to me that it's not flying anymore. And I haven't gotten to see the animations of Slitherwing to see if it does still flap around at all, or is it purely
Just
walking?
stands there.
Yeah.
Oh, he just stands there.
This is a moth that has lost the ability to fly, evidently, which is super, super weird for a moth specifically to do. But just insects in general, that's not super common. There are, insects that have lost their wings, but it's not common. This would have to be some really like specific scenario that this prehistoric version evolved in, like an island or something where it was isolated from predators, so it could survive just walking around. So the fact that it's not great in combat might fit that because island species typically aren't as adaptive.
So it has a very high attack stat. I meant from like a competitive standpoint. It's it hits like a truck. Its typing just makes it very vulnerable to a lot of popular things.
Which is very fitting for island groups.
Yeah, so that actually does tie in very well.
Huh. Yeah,
they don't do well with competition.
No flying types, no problem. So
yeah, there's no birds on the island it evolved on for some weird reason, which is unlikely.
Yeah, which is why it's 4 times weak to flying. Actually, yeah, that does fit very well.
On his island, he's like, "I'm a god," and then he meets a pig.
Exactly.
Just a Wingull just floats in on the breach, just gull, and it's just like, what the heck are you? It tries, it waves at the Slitherwing, the gust hits it, and it dies.
Right?
Can we make anything? So if you look at Slitherwing, it's kind of got that little like green tail on the end, which Volcarona does not. It's got the very kind of thick, I'm gonna say thorax. I might be wrong on my insect biology.
Yeah, that would be the abdomen. I mean, that could be that an adaptation potentially to like getting on the ground. The abdomen is where most of an insect's guts actually are. So that's where their lungs typically are. Their digestive tract is there. The thorax, which is what we would think of as our torso, where all the arms and legs, the arms are and the legs are attached, is mostly just for the limbs to be attached and for the esophagus to travel back to the digestive tract. So maybe it's a specialist, and so it eats a very specific diet that doesn't need such a notable digestive tract or something, or it's adjusted its organs to the other parts of its body. Maybe
The next one we kind of talk about, and this one I saw a little bit more in competitive play than a Slitherwing, was a Brute Bonnet. Now, if you know anything about playing in Pokemon, Among Us is honestly a pretty terrifying threat to deal with if you're not prepared for it. It's bulky, it puts you to sleep, it rage pout, like that mushroom's been around for a while. But Brute Bonnet just decided to ditch a lot of that like support and try and stick more into offense. I didn't know a mushroom could look evil.
Everyone just watched The Last of Us, man.
Okay, fair.
right?
But like, I love what they compare it to in Violet. It's like it bears a slight resemblance to a Pokemon described in the Dubious magazine as a cross between a dinosaur and a mushroom.
Sure.
That doesn't make any sense.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
I mean, if you watch The Last of Us, it makes some sense.
But it also doesn't even look like that.
Yeah, like
It still just
bothers
looks like
me that it has four.
mushroom.
It bothers me that it has 4 legs
I don't like the legs. Either.
right.
I don't want to. I imagine
and a tail.
Amogus hops at you. This thing like skitters.
Yeah. Well, and it once again it follows that trope of, well, it's like how a bunch of cartoons are like everything in the past had saber teeth. Just slap saber-toothed squirrel, saber-tooth this. It's got a very similar feeling to that of just, well, surely ancient mushrooms were dinosaur mushrooms, which, as you just, doesn't make any sense. The thing that stands out to me is that they are suggesting that Pokeball mimicry goes back ancestrally. That it was mimicking that white and red circular pattern before there were Pokeballs, which makes me think of Legends with the it wasn't in that game where they suggested, or Arceus, that's what it was, where they suggested that Pokeballs were based off of that region, that's Voltorbs.
I believe so.
Yes. Yeah.
So if that's the case, then for some reason either Voltorb or these mushrooms were mimicking each other.
Ooh.
And so
I would say
was this
yeah.
mimicking the exploding Pokemon to try to scare off predators?
Oh, that's some deep think.
Yeah, that's like,
but why would you need to just? Why would it need to when it just punch him in the face?
which is the thing that then
This thing
means,
doesn't-
was Voltorb the original mimicker? We all assumed that it was the thing that's the most dangerous, but maybe it was trying to say, no, you don't want to mess with me. I'm this mushroom, and I'll punch you. And then when things get too close, he goes, well, I guess I'll explode.
That's the Lucas approach.
I mean, I brought an explosion team to regional, and it got 4 out of 5. I mean, like, that's not nothing. It's not.
No, that's impressive.
I mean,
I like that thinking of the Voltorb Amoongus relationship. Will I think that Voltorb mimicking it because it's such a menace is a lot more fun.
it also,
Which
it's not Pokemon's fault, but this thing does learn Bullet Seed, and since it's a mushroom, that shouldn't really work. But I mean, no, it's fine. It's fine.
But that would mean that this Pokemon is the origination of the Pokeball emblem, evolutionarily speaking.
Mm.
And we just decided to leave off the spikes.
Yes, exactly. Because the Pokemon that we based it off of survived past this one. Voltorb lived past whenever Brute Bonnet went extinct. So we didn't know about this one until, it came back through a time portal.
Until it showed up sucker punching everyone in Paldea.
So next up is one that's gotten a lot of play. Like when I was at the tournament, I ran into this thing on every team. And that is Salamance's Paradox Roaring Moon. Yikes.
Yeah.
This thing has some anger issues.
Well, and this very much feels like to me the examples of like particularly big flying birds and stuff, where like that this would be an example of just a massive flying a massive version of salamence.
Do you think the feathers and the wings are for display and reproductive purposes, or just to like put fear into the eyes of everyone who sees it?
I mean, if it is used for the fear aspect, it would absolutely also be used for competition between individuals and trying to attract mates and defend territories. So, like, basically any form of display usually also then functions back. You minus a few examples, but I would assume that it definitely has a display aspect. It also might be maybe that it was flying different. You know, like big wings is good for soaring. Maybe they migrated more than today's salamances.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out like if it is a display. Well, then if you look at today's salamence, it looks, let's be honest, a little less decorative. Like I'm wondering how
Mhm.
like this sort of thing is selected over breeding and generation. So what bred, what went, why'd you go from fab to drab? Like what would cause that?
It's interesting
That
too because Mega Salamence is very close to Roaring Moon in design.
Yes, it is. Which I also thought of when I saw this one, is it's got that same moon crest, crescent moon set of wings. The thing that would come to my mind for losing that display is that now you're less social. And if salamances today are more solitary, they tend to live alone, widespread with big territories, which I don't know how you tend to find salamances in the games or how they decide to render them. But that's the behavior we would expect from a loss of display, is that you're not interacting as often anymore. So you don't have the strong need and the strong adaptation pressure to have all that display because you're only interacting with each other on very rare occasions.
Could it also be so when I look at these two side by side, like Lucas has laid out, Salamence is way thicker than Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon has like a tiny torso. Could it be also that there was maybe a shift in what is deemed desirable for reasons? Like maybe it was the plumage of the wings before, but then some big threat came about, and then like all of a sudden being big and bulky and strong became the more attractive feature.
Absolutely. I mean, like crocodiles are super social and they don't have a lot of display features, but their display is how big and loud they are. So that absolutely tracks.
So we just like got it. We just lost interest in like skinny, flashy guys and moved over just back to the '80s bulk, like the Rocky Balboa looking dude's better looking than the Harry Style looking dude. I get it. Just reversal.
Well, it's the
Oh, I think
evolutionary equivalent of dad bod coming into trend.
yes. I think that begs the question though, what Pokemon do we not have that made that shift, that made it shift that way? What made Salamence thicken up?
Well, and it
Weaviles.
could be maybe that like
Weaviles is like shooting ice shards at them just out of the sky.
It could be that maybe that Roaring Moon lived in like a Birds of Paradise situation where it lived in an ideal environment where there's plenty of food, so it could afford to double down on display and showiness. And then the Salamances we have today are the more hardy generalists that can survive in tougher environments, so they don't have those showy features.
Right. The last one we got like what, a month ago now? Yeah, actually, literally a month ago. Oh my gosh. All right. So, first off, Will, quick question for you and settle a debate here between some colleagues. Suicune, dog or cat?
I mean, the face says cat for sure. And I'd have to see how its wrists turn to settle that. I mean, it's definitely got more the body of a cat than a dog.
All right, Chris, you win this round.
But like,
You hear that, Lucas?
Yes.
The experts on my side.
like
Yes.
it definitely
Suicune's a
leans
cat.
that way a bit more.
Don't like it.
There are dogs that could be shaped that way. The face is really what messes up, because dogs are just so like canines are just so long snout. That's there are some stubby snouted that we didn't breed, like naturally stubby snouted ones, but not that stubby.
Okay, so next question. Why is it a raptor with two tails just like whipping out? Like it's so random. When that trailer dropped, everyone's jaw hit the floor. No one cared about the future Vision. No one cares. Look,
because it's
yeah, I
bad.
mean,
Apparently,
why is
there's
it
no
like
bugs in the
specifically
future.
bad though? Like just
The,
weak to bug.
the
That's it.
stats are not great. The typing is not good. You're 4 times weak to bug. You have like 9 other weaknesses. Its signature move is trash compared to Hydro Steam. Hydro Steam is awesome.
So if you don't know Hydro Steam, so whether it's raining, when it's raining, um, every water move gets a boost. But the problem is with all of the past Paradox Pokemon, when the sun comes out, their ability is that they get a boost in one of their stats. So in order to compensate for that,
The sun also reduces the damage of water moves by
not for
50%.
this move though. This one specific move gets
Correct.
strong in the sun and in the rain, so it doesn't matter.
Neat.
Yeah, it's just gonna once it's allowed to be in competitive play, it's gonna be a monster. It's just
Bundle will murder it.
it is a raptor of some kind, right?
It's definitely inspired by theropod dinosaurs, which include your Velociraptors, your Deinonychus, your T-Rex, your Allosaurus, the two-legged predatory dinosaur. Like that's definitely what they're going for. And as weird as it seems to go from the familiar four-legged to a bipedal two-legged animal, not as ridiculous as you might think. Earliest dinosaurs were often two-legged, or sometimes they could switch back and forth, most likely between four-legged and two-legged, walk around for a little bit on two legs but mostly spent their time on four. All the earliest dinosaurs we find basically fit that body plan, including the ones that eventually become sauropods, the long-necked dinosaurs, and like ceratopsians, the horned dinosaurs, which are all completely four-legged. So switching from two-legged to four-legged is not completely crazy.
I'm just more impressed that it goes from like raptor captor to just cat dog. It's weird to think that it went reptilian to mammalian like that quickly. Like it's just
Well,
weird.
yeah, and that's the thing that I think that's the thing that makes it stand the most out, is that mammals have never really done this. Like, there's not many mammals that walk around on two legs in general, minus primates, and even most of them still knuckle walk. And then the only other one is like the kangaroo. So like that's a very unusual body shape for a mammal, but not unreasonable. It would need a beefier tail than mammals tend to have.
And it has two of them.
Theropods had, yes, and so that is fitting, which also supports that those ribbons are indeed tails on Suicune.
It kind of remind me of Sylveon's like ribbon flesh ears. Like everyone's
Flesh ribbons.
yeah, it's just
Is there any purpose for why they would have become front-facing?
I would assume that they'd, once again, it would be some sort of like display feature. Maybe
Okay.
they could be something else. Like this is I'm just shooting into the speculative evolution dark. If it is kind of a cat, a convergent evolution, if it's evolving to be like a cat. I've never seen a close up of Sylveon of Suicune that confirms it has whiskers. Maybe its tails are acting in place of its whiskers to give it up close touch detail sensation.
That's interesting, because you're right. I don't think Suicune has whiskers.
Yeah. Which is a feature of both cats and dogs. So Suicune might be something else entirely. That whiskers is just a common feature of those groups.
oh, we could be both
Yeah.
wrong, which means you're wrong, which means I could be happy. So, all right, last thing I want to ask you before we do our goodbyes, I want to know, and I asked a few people this weekend, if you could get a paradox form, like a past weird form of any Pokemon, what would it be?
'Cause That is a good question. One of the thoughts I have would be it would be cool to get one of the like dragonish Pokemon, like Charizard or Dragonite or something, and like show them developing their wings, like have the Paradox, the past Pokemon be not fully flighted but have the beginnings of that extra pair of limbs or something.
That's cool. For me,
That could be
For me,
neat.
I just want to see like they always talk about in the Pokedex how Magikarp with this big legendary monster. All right, bet. Show us.
Yes,
Show me what it looked like.
absolutely.
I mean, it's pretty on brand.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
I mean, anyone else have a Paradoxmon they want to see?
I was gonna say any ones that the fan base jokes about that should be dragons, like Gyarados, show us the dragon forms.
Yes, yeah.
Like the Charizards, the Gyaradoses, like all the ones that should have the dragon typing because of how they are designed or what their influences are. Let's see those
double
monsters.
down and turn and make a past Paradox Flygon that's Bug Dragon, but like give it like 6 limbs, give it mandibles, make that thing horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Or oh no, sorry, this is probably for a different episode, Lucas, but give me the future version of Hydreigon that is the tank version they
Yes.
originally had.
Ooh,
Will, do you know that story?
cool.
The,
No, that's I can definitely see it, but that's cool.
Yeah.
if you look at Hydreigon, it's got basically the lines on its chest are left over from the original design, and they're supposed to be treads.
Artillery was almost a tank as well.
Yeah, they've tried to make a tank Pokemon.
They almost made a
times.
gun out of Remora. Was going to be the gun Pokemon. Remoraid, anyway. Yeah, Remoraid. That was it. It's great.
I thought of my Paradox Pokemon. I want Feraligator's past version that actually looks like an alligator.
Oh, you like with an overbite and everything?
Yeah, like with an actual long snout instead of a stubby jaw. Like I love Feraligator. Feraligator's great, but it doesn't look at all like an alligator really in any way. So I would love the past version that is actually gator shaped.
Don, what about you? What would you like to see?
I'm gonna go in a weird direction because I just want to see how it's implemented. I would like to see the future version of an already futuristic Pokemon.
Oregon?
So maybe like Porygon, yeah. Actually, now that you say that might even be better. But for some reason, my mind went to like the two Pokemon everyone forgets exist, like LGM and BEM, because they're already like weird little alien dudes, and they're already
Yes.
kind of futuristic. So it'd be very interesting to see like where they go. Do they just transcend to like sentient like things of gas?
Oh, they're the ones making all the robot Pokemon.
Yeah, what if they are? What if that's the big reveal?
Don't think about us, will you? Fine. We'll get rid of you. Then there won't be anyone to think about us. That'll show them.
They're like, good. Our invasion is going as planned. They've yet to pay attention to us.
Keep it coming. Should we name them something else? I mean, they're not technically made of iron. Shut up and make the robots, robot maker.
Oh no, that's the explanation is that it's a mistranslation. They think iron means something completely different.
Well, I did see a thing where it was like the future Pokemon were like code names, and the past Pokemon were like caveman descriptors.
Yeah.
So we are going over an hour on this one, so we kind of should start wrapping up. Before we wrap up, Will, always a pleasure to talk with you, my friend, but can you give our listeners a place where they can listen to you talk more?
Yes. Our podcast, the Common Descent Podcast, is found on basically all streaming services. We host it through Podbean, but it's on iTunes and Spotify. We also upload it to YouTube, so the audio is there if anyone would prefer that. We have Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, so you can find us there. We have a Discord that you can join us where we do extra chats and have extra dialogue about among the fans. And we also have a Patreon where you can get extra goodies and live chats with us every month.
I'll make sure to put all of that down in the description. So I do want to and thank you for taking the time to sit with us and talk about some of these past Pokemon. It's always great to learn more about them. And now we have new horrifying theories to discuss. Especially Brute Bonnet.
Oh, yes. No, this was tons. Yes. Brute Bonnet is now one of my favorite personal Pokemon theories. That is fantastic.
I think we stumbled onto something great with that one.
So thank you so much, listeners, for being a part of this. Again, share with your friends, share with your buddies. Again, new podcasts, they take a lot to take off, but with your guys' help, we'll keep going and keep teaching more people. So we won't keep you any longer. Have a wonderful rest of your day or night. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye, everybody.